All right, this joint meeting is the following communities, facility districts. Number 1, Community Facilities General District Number 1. Number 2, Palm Valley Community Facilities District Number 3. Number 3, Community Facilities Utilities District Number 1. 4, Wildflower Ranch Community Facilities District. 5, Wildflower Ranch Community Facilities District Number 2. Cottonflower Community Facilities District. Estrella Mountain Ranch Community Facility District. King Ranch Community Facilities District, Centerra Community Facilities District, and Cortina Community Facilities District. So we are all here except Bill, and I think there he is. So we have no communication. And now is the time for a citizen who would like to address the district on any non-agenda item. Do we have any cards?
No, Chairman Lord.
All right, thank you. But is there anybody that happens to be in the audience that would like to speak? All right, then let's go to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda items by 5.1 title only?
Approved draft minutes from a CFD joint meeting held on March 16, 2015.
Thank you. Does anybody from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does any on the board wish to remove an item? All right. Could I please have a motion and a second for the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion from Board Member Campbell and a second from Board Member Loretano. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, we're on to business. The 6.1, the first item is to authorize insurance and sale of District General Obligation Refunding Bonds, Series 2015 for the Community Facilities Utilities District Number 1. Larry Lang will be our presenter, our Finance Director. Larry?
Thank you, Chairman Lord. Good evening, CFD Board. The issue before you tonight, Resolution 15-096, authorizes the issuance of approximately $7 million worth of refunding bonds. Those bonds will be sold to refinance one issue, two different portions of an issue of 2005 bonds. The purpose of the refinancing is to save money on the interest, take advantage of the lower interest rates. The savings on this particular transaction are approximately $500,000. That's a net present value savings of about 7%. Normally, we say that above 4% we will do a particular transaction, and so this meets the standards. Before I go any further, I need to correct myself for lack of introductions of people that are here that are closely involved in representing the CFD board in this. From Gus Rosenfeld, Jim Gill is hiding behind the post so you can't see him, and Kim McIntyre is closest to the door. Larry Given from Wedbush Securities. Gus Rosenfeld is the bond counsel on this particular deal, representing the district, and Wedbush Securities, the financial advisor, representing the district also. So we did this transaction a year ago, as you'll recall, for some of the previous bonds, 2003 issues and so forth. And that saved the district, as I recall, about $450,000 in present value savings. In this particular case, we're taking the savings up front, but it will not impact the tax rate that we're doing immediately. In other words, we don't want to lower the tax rate and then bump it up again. But that savings, what we'll do is we will actually use less of the cash that we received in the bankruptcy settlements and the other things, and that'll spread out the rates longer so that we'll be able to go further without increasing the rates. At our current estimates, apologize, I thought I had just, well, that's why I did pull it out. Our current estimates, the last time we talked to you about this a year ago, we were estimating that we could do the transaction and go all the way through, and the property tax rate for the utilities district would be approximately $1. After this refunding, we've reworked that schedule, and our estimate is now that we'll be able to do the property tax rate at about 90 cents. So that's where that savings will be realized, and the cash from the settlement, the various other cash that we have, will take us out to fiscal year 21. And that's how we keep the rate steady over that period of time. That's kind of a quick and dirty, but you've been through this transaction a few times, so I didn't want to go into any more depth unless there are additional questions that I may have missed.
All right, thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Chairman Lord.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, would the city district clerk please read the resolution by title only?
Adopt Resolution CFUD Number 1, Resolution 15-096, authorizing the issuance and sale of its District General Obligation Refunding Bonds Series 2015 in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $7,015,000, delegating the authority to approve certain matters with respect to the bonds and the bonds being refunded, providing for the annual levy of a tax for this payment of the bonds, authorizing the appointment of a registrar, transfer agent and paying agent, a depository trustee, and a dissemination agent, approving the form of the bonds and certain documents, and authorizing completion, execution, and delivery thereof, delegating the authority to approve and deem final a form of official statement, approving the sale of the bonds to the purchaser thereof, and ratifying all actions taken or to be taken to further this resolution.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion and a second?
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Osborne and a second by Vice Chair Pizzillo. Open for board discussion? No oh, yes. Vice Board Member?
Is this going to spread out the time period, or is it going to keep the same time period before the refinancing?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And continuing with our philosophy on refinancings, this keeps the same time period. We are not extending the debt at all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. We're at 6.2. Of course, it'd be Larry Lang. We'll talk about special districts and taxation administrator. We'll present, but Larry will, for her, present the next 10 business agenda items together. They pertain to approving the fiscal year 2015-16 tentative budget and setting a public hearing date for each of the 10 communities facility districts. Now, what we're going to do is we'll vote separately on each one of these after the completion of this presentation. Larry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologize on behalf of Sheila, who couldn't make it this evening, as she was not feeling well today, that you have to listen to me through the presentations of these 10 budgets.
I'll give her our best. I hope she doesn't
we will pass that along to her. But tonight we're presenting to you the proposed tentative budgets for all 10 of the CFDs. The actual votes have to take place individually, but we felt it's easier to give you a presentation as we have in the past, combining all 10 of them. So we have schedules included that will show the operations and maintenance budget for each of the CFDs, the debt service. In the one case, we have capital project funds. We'll show you the estimated property tax rates based on the limited property valuations. And that's a new term for you and for our citizens, limited property value. That is the term that used to be referred to in the CFDs as secondary assessed valuation. But this is the terminology that came out of Prop 117. That is effective for fiscal year 16. And so that is the terminology we'll use this evening. You will see in certain cases, as a result of this, you will see where the valuation has dropped from last year. And that's, again, due to the Prop 117, that it's taking what used to be the primary assessed valuation, and it is applying it on that, whereas we used to use the secondary assessed valuation that was higher. And so that's why you'll see in some of these districts where that valuation actually decreased. And we'll have a schedule that will show you that. We'll also show the property tax rates that are levied for operations, maintenance, as well as broken down between that and the general debt expenditures. So this is a graphic of the three CFDs that are north of I-10. The utilities district is kind of the broad one that encompasses all of these areas. On the district that would be on the right side there, as you look at this graphic, would be where the general district is. And the areas shaded in green are the areas that are represented by the Palm Valley CFD number 3. Wildflower Ranch actually has 2 community facilities districts in it. Cottonflower Community Facilities District within there, Centera and Cortina are all community facilities districts within the central part of the city. They're a little on the smaller side compared to north and south. And then finally, the Australia Mountain Ranch Community Facilities District. And we do have King Ranch Community Facilities District that was formed, but debt was never issued on the King Ranch District. So, but it still exists.
Yes, Board Member Osborne.
Larry, does that ever go away, that one for Kings Ranch? Sunset, does it go away? Is there anything
it
to
doesn't
this one?
automatically go away, and while the property is undeveloped, probably doesn't make sense for it to go away.
Okay.
There are provisions in the statute, I believe, in the council here that can answer this better than I can. But there are now, I believe, provisions in the statutes that allow for the dissolution of community facilities districts. When they first came in, that was a lot harder, as I recall, than it is today. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
I just wondered the advantage of continuing it.
That really is a good question, and probably something that we could do over the next year is talk to the property owner about that. I know the first time it exchanged hands, we met with the property owner that acquired it, and they were still interested in it.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean they are today. I don't have that information.
Okay.
It seems to me that would be an advantage of just holding on to it right now to see if somebody wants to develop it under that.
They have a tool in place already. As community facilities districts have evolved, for example, one issue that comes up in Goodyear, the central Goodyear area, when you see the size of those community facilities districts, if we had one come in of that size, you would find a recommendation from me to not form it. They're very inefficient in the smaller size. The revenue generated that can be used to administer them is less than the cost of administering them. Where that break-off, different people argue there, but I've used a break-off that says that at full build-out, there should be at least $50,000 of revenue, of the O&M revenue available. Many of these districts do not come close to that number.
I was just curious. I mean, if there's advantages, then I understand. I just didn't know what we would eventually do with this one. So, okay.
That's a very good question and a very fair question. There also is one other means that the property owner would get interest, and we'll use that as kind of a segue in here to the next slide where we talk about the property tax levy. So combined for debt service, and for the O&M. These are the total levies of the various districts, with the middle column being the levy for fiscal year 14-15, the year that'll be ending here in another month or so, and the far right-hand column being the levy for fiscal year 15-16. That being the total levies, you can see in King Ranch Community Facilities District, that total levy is actually only $3,700. One change we made this past year when we changed auditors is we removed the audit from the scope of our, or removed King Ranch CFD from the scope of our audit. The audit itself was costing more than the tax levy. And so we decided no reason, if you haven't issued any debt, to have audited financial statements for it. Going through on these, the utilities district is showing higher on this particular scale on the levy than it was the prior year. That is because of the advantage of some refinancings that we had done in the prior year. And so that was kind of a transitional year. If you remember, the original proposed tax rate for that district was 75 cents. And last year we were able to keep it just a little bit above 75 cents. It was 76 point something. But this year, as I just discussed a few minutes ago with the debt refinancing, it'll actually be approximately 90 cents, which is where we expect it to stay for a number of years, and then hopefully it'll start dropping. And I guess I got ahead of myself for fiscal year 14-15. The combined property tax rate for each of the districts is shown on this schedule. When I say combined, like on the utilities district, the 76, it was 7.7662, and then 25 cents for the O&M on that particular district. This year it'll be going up to 1.14, and that difference is going all towards debt service. Each of these, as you go through, we have the target tax rate on there. Some of these are higher than the target tax rate. For example, the two Wildflower Ranch, Cottonflower, and Centera, and these are bolded up there, and also the utilities district. They're higher than the combined targeted rate. What happened in the Great Recession and when the housing values dropped, the value dropped, but we needed to levy the same amount of tax. And so the rate had to go up to do it. So using Wildflower Ranch, actually using all of those as the example, because we issued no additional debt during that time frame or since then in any of these districts as far as GO debt. To levy the same amount of money when the communities were built out, and Wildflower, that's the case in both of them, Cottonflower and Centera, those were all the case. This also did happen a bit in Cortina. You got to have a higher rate to be able to get the same amount of tax dollars. So the same houses are paying the same amount of money. It's just that the rate looks different.
Joanne?
So is this telling me then that this year the value of the homes in Central Goodyear in these respected areas went down? And that's why the rate had to go up? Or is
in many of these areas, the
Wildflower
that
in
is
particular?
the values didn't go down.
Okay, the values didn't go down.
The method of computing the values changed under Prop 117.
I see. Okay.
Most of Goodyear, the values appreciated by more than the 5% that we all remember from Prop 117. But you were measuring it on a different basis. Prior to Prop 117, there was a primary assessed valuation and a secondary assessed valuation. And the secondary assessed valuation for residential was 10% of the full cash value. Well, that's changed now. There's a limited property value. There's only so much each house can go up in value. And that's all that it's based on. Very good question. And I think these Actually, these examples make it easier to understand those impacts than when you get on a citywide basis where it gets a lot more complicated because of commercial and some of the other impacts to it. So you ask about LPL, the limited property value, assessed value. That is in the very first column. That's tax year 2015, but tax year 2015 is what we use for fiscal year 2016. No, we don't do that to confuse you. That's just the way the statutes are written, okay? So you can see in all of those, the second column or the third column in there, percent change in assessed valuation. That's where your question is answered. The ones that are positive, Goodyear General number 1 went up by 2.6% from last year. Whereas Wildflower number 2, Cottonflower, King Ranch, Centera, and Cortina all were lower than they were last year, and that was simply due to the change in Prop 117. That is not to imply that the full cash value changed. In fact, in very few cases, I would guess that it had, with the exception, King Ranch, the full cash value had to change just due to the math on that particular one. There's no housing in there. And then we've got the history. 2014 is what used to be referred to as the secondary assessed valuation. That's why it says SAV. So going throughout our community, that gives you kind of a good picture. The areas north of I-10 and Australia Mountain Ranch, the reason those are positive is new construction. So that growth helped keep that from becoming negative in that area.
Vice Chair?
Larry, is it fair to say going forward, no matter what happens, boom or bust, if we get a 20% valuation, whatever the case may be, you're only going to get 5%, and it's going to be a steady number for both sides?
It is fair to say that that's going to be a steady cap. Unfortunately, the math of Prop 117 is not as simple as the concept that we talked about when we voted, okay? As citizens, I mean. And when I'm saying that, the limited property value is determined, the gross limited property value, this is the net limited property value, or limited property value, that's the assessed portion. But the limited property value is just that. It's limited in what it goes. It is not the full cash value. And so what happens is that I'm going to use land as a differential. When they changed land, for example, by 1 percentage point, the limited property value dropped below. So the city of Goodyear, just citywide, even though most of the property in Goodyear had appreciated in the past by more than the 5%, and there was that surplus built in of value, the actual growth rate for the city of Goodyear on the existing property actually worked out to be 3.7%. County-wide, that number is below 2%. Okay? So that's all the math of it. But it's very safe to say it'll never be, actually, I think it's safe to say it'll never be 5%, but it won't be higher.
And the only reason why I say that is mine's going to be 5% for years to come because I'm well above that 5% limited cash value. So I'm not even tapped. So even if tomorrow something flattened out, I'm still going 5, because it's going to take them a while just to get to what the assessed value that they have there. So, and I guess it's I don't know if it's going to make it easier for you or harder for you in the future to figure out when you can sell bonds or not sell bonds, only because you're not going to have these wild spikes anymore on your assessed valuations that you had in the past.
I do think it'll make it easier. Yeah. It's just in the first few years, we're going to have to learn how to estimate. We had always known that it would never be fully the 5%. Citywide, we assumed 4.5%. The great lesson from this year is next year we'll probably assume 3.5% as we go forward. And as you build a track record, you'll be able to kind of get a good idea of that. But we're learning. I've asked the assessor to give us more information on the calculation. We haven't received it yet, but hopefully over the next year we will.
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay. Okay, so The estimated property tax per $100 of assessed valuation, I think what we were asking for in this particular chart would be how much property tax would be on a $100,000 home for each of the CFDs. Just looking at the calculation, I think that that's what it would be in that calculation. And that's simply why we put that in. We used to be able to have a better one. We used to have, we used to use a mean value when we gave it to you for an area. The problem with that is when you get to the new methods of calculation anymore, I can't give you that because every house is different and you just don't have any kind of a mean as far as that valuation.
Joanne?
I just hate to see the Wildflower Ranch, impacts. And I know that you're always looking for whether or not we can refinance it with them or anything. Are they close to the 5% to 8% savings? I don't recall if a few years ago if we refinanced them or not. So
we have not refinanced some of these smaller districts. That's a really good question. One of the challenges to it is left, but it's still, I think it's a fair assessment. One of the challenges in doing these transactions is the cost for these very small districts. The one that we're doing tonight has issuance costs. You're able to build that in and recover it and still show a profit. I do not believe that we will ever find a point where we would be able to refinance those smaller ones and recover the issuance costs to be able to save that money.
Would there be, this sounds, I don't know, just a question. Would there ever be the possibility of taking these different smaller districts and combining them into one to have a savings across the board? Does that, maybe you can't do that. That's just a shot in the dark. I'm just curious.
After he recovered, they threw water on him. We'll ask bond counsel to discuss that one.
Mayor Lord, members of the board, Jim Gill with Gus Rosenfeld. I don't believe that's possible without an election of the landowners within the district to do some sort of consolidation. So I think that's pretty unlikely.
Really? Gotcha. Well,
and related to that, what was jumping out at me that we could maybe talk about, or maybe it's a no also, is there a way you could combine financings from those districts to get an efficiency scale, kind of pool the bonds? I think that was kind of the question. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's even possible. That'd be very complex, I can picture, to draw up.
Yeah, that would be probably a more appropriate question for Larry, given the financial advisor. But yeah, I could understand the efficiencies involved in doing a pooled financing or financing with multiple series if it made sense for each particular CFD. But I think Larry could explore that with Larry Given.
You could look at that? That would be great.
We'll look at that.
Okay. Thank you.
Always like coming out with new assignments. Okay, so this is kind of a summary of the budgets. We've talked a lot about the tax rates going forward, but what are the budgets for each of these CFDs? The O&M is the operation and maintenance that is limited by statute as to how much it can be levied, and then within the three districts north of I-10, it's also limited by development agreements and so forth. The utilities district and the Australia Mountain Ranch, you can see, are considerably larger. In both cases, we also provide a number of services that we don't provide to all of them. In the case of the utilities district, there is landscape maintenance for the higher level of landscaping within the rights-of-way and so forth that is actually charged to that. And in the case of Australia Mountain Ranch, they have a number of assessment issues that areas that require a considerable amount of staff time as we're going through, and that's where those get higher. The debt service for all of those is shown in that column. In Australia Mountain Ranch, that debt service also includes those on assessment bonds. And then the Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP, actually includes the bonds that have already been issued, this is the ability to disperse that funding throughout. So these are the actual expenditure budgets for each of those CFDs for the upcoming year. Not too bad, 5:30.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Chairman Lord.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. Could you please, will the district clerk please read CFGD number 1, Resolution 15-169 by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution CFGD number 1, Resolution 15-169, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion, a second?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Stipp and a second by Board Member Campbell. Open for council discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, we're at 6.3. Will the district clerk please read PV CFD number 3, Resolution 15-043 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution PVC FD number 3, Res 15-043, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard Board Member Osborne make a motion, a second by Board Member Loretano. Open for council discussion? Board members discussion, excuse me. No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Will the city clerk please read the CFUD number 1, Resolution 15-093 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution CFUD number 1, Resolution 15-093, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion, a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Stipp and a second by Vice Chair Pizzillo. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Open for board discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's go to 6.5. Will the district clerk please read WFRCFD Resolution 15-058 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution WFR-CFD Resolution 15-058, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion, a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Campbell and a second by Vice Chair Pizzillo. Open for board discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
6.6, will the district clerk please read WFRCFD number 2, Resolution 15-053 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution WFR-CFD number 2, Resolution 15-053, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion, a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Loretano and a second by Board Member Stipp. Open for board discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
We're at 6.7. Will the district clerk please read Cotton Flower WRCFD Resolution 15-051 by title only?
Adopt Resolution Cotton Flower CFD Resolution 15-051, approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Pizzillo and a second by Board Member Loretano. Open for board discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, we're at 6.8. Will the district clerk please read EMR CFD Resolution 15-099 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution EMR CFD Resolution 15-099 approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Osborne, a second by Board Member Loretano. Open for board discussion. No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
We're at 6.9. Will the district clerk please read KRCFD Resolution 15-027 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution KRCFD Resolution 15-027 approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Campbell, and a second by Board Member Holman. Open for board discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye. Oh,
What?
I just changed Stip's name. It's one of those moments.
Did you step into it?
I just stepped into it.
That's what I thought.
Board Member Homan?
Continue. We're at, who did you ask for, Vice?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, you should answer.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go to 6.10. Will the district clerk please read Centera CFD Resolution 15-051 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution Centera CFD Resolution 15-051 approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thanks. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Pizzillo and a second by Board Member Holman. Open for board discussion. All right, no discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Mayor Lord? Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thanks. We're at 6.11. Will the district clerk please read Cortina CFD Resolution 15-046 by title only?
Adopt Resolution Cortina CFD Resolution 15-046 approving the tentative budget of the district for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, setting a hearing date for the budget.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Board Member Osborne and a second by Vice Chair Pizzillo. Open for board discussion. No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Homan?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Pizzillo?
Aye.
Board Member Osborne?
Aye.
Board Member Loretano?
Aye.
Board Member Campbell?
Aye.
Board Member Stipp?
Aye.
Chairman Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Does the board have any comments or commendation reports? I don't think. Does the district manager have anything to report? Don't think. So with that, we're going to, I think we're fine. So a CFD meeting, the next one will be held on June 15. This meeting is adjourned. Okay.